Ensenada, Mexico, starting point for the SCORE Baja 500, which is no pleasure cruise. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain. Welcome to the Baja Peninsula, a very special place to race. These crowds have gathered in hopes of getting a glimpse of the SCORE trophy trucks. The trophy truck drivers come here because the challenges of Baja are unique anywhere in the world of motorsports. Because since its inception, this race has been one of the toughest in the world.
Going to be rough, tough, gnarly, very technical, lots and lots of places to make mistakes. Fall off the road, hit trees, get stuck, water crossing, you name it, this is going to be tough.
You can take the best metal money can buy, heat treat it, and beat it against this dirt here in Baja, and it will break it. And that's what you're going to see, broken race cars.
And thus, pre-race preparation is very much on the minds of the crews as they roll the trucks through inspection and head for the starting area. Our expert analyst today is Bob Bauer, former co-driver for Robbie Gordon. Bob's seen his share of bent metal. But Bob, there's something missing this week.
That's right, Dave. What's missing here is a driver. The driver that's dominated the series up to now with 3 straight wins. Never been done in trophy truck racing, and that's Robbie Gordon. Now, his number 5 Valvoline Ultra Wheel Ford is here, and because Robbie has a conflict in his IndyCar race program, he's had to select a driver that he trusts and has confidence in to keep that point lead moving forward. That driver is Jimmy Smith. Jimmy, you've got some big shoes and fast shoes to fill here.
Well, there's no question about that. I don't think there's a better driver than Robbie Gordon. I'm really pleased that he selected me to drive this Ultra Wheels Ford truck. I'll tell you, we finished second the last 2 years in the championship. Robbie and I talked about that. I was leading this race last year, lost a transmission with 80 miles to go. He felt that there was nobody better to pick than me, and I promised him I'm going to do him a good job. And we're planning on bringing that Valvoline Ford truck home 4 in a row.
3 wins in 3 starts give Robbie Gordon a big series lead over Rob McCachran and Ivan Stewart, both former champions. The rest of your standings down through the top 10 as we prepare for the start of this 4th of 7 races in the battle for the series championship. And this morning, the last guy the drivers are hearing from before they exit the starting line, Jim Morton, the SCORE Race Operations Director.
What we have is at mile 23 before the town of Porvenir, we have an area where there's thousands of people, and we're just warning the drivers to be very careful there. There's no booby traps or anything. The jumps have all been there before, and we're just warning the drivers to be careful. Also at mile 196, the jump that was there is now a huge jump. We're trying to get more information, but we feel it's better to warn them, let them know that something is coming up.
For 7 years now, Jim Morton has been a pillar of strength in the SCORE organization. We dedicate our coverage of the Baja 500 to Jim's memory. He died in an automobile accident en route home after the race. He's survived by his parents, his wife, and 3 children. Jim, we'll miss you. Baja 500 is brought to you by Toyota Motorsports. Our minds are always racing. And by the more than 1,325 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. A few squiggly lines on a map do not do justice to the 511 miles these drivers expect to cover into 10 to 12 hours. Leading them off the line will be Jeff Lewis.
Jeff is going to be incredibly fast in this initial portion. He's got clean air and fast run. And this Class 8 truck is holding its own in trophy truck. Guys aren't afraid to follow him. He'll do very, very well.
He who starts first finished last in the previous outing under trophy truck rules. Actually, Jeff finished 10th in the last race. Second out will be Javier Espinosa, the only native Mexican in the field.
And the only other V6 in the field here. This little Chevrolet S10 has been a very quick car for its former owner, and Javier is still looking to make it be a championship car in trophy truck racing.
And just for the record, all these guys in truck racing refer to their cars. This is Dave Simon. His car is really a truck. It's a Ford, and he races it with his brother.
One of the hottest teams in trophy truck racing. You're going to see these guys take off fast, and it's a great starting position. I mean, they're only 3rd off the line. This isn't half bad.
And following him out, the brothers Herbst. You know that name if you've driven across the desert. They run all those gas stations and car washes.
And they run some pretty fast off-road racing cars. This is Ed Herbst doing the start. And I'll tell you, the guys in this truck are still learning what it's like to drive all that horsepower and all that weight. Look for them to be continually challenging for the front.
Following them out will be Kurt Leduc. He drives the only Jeep in the field, and the Grand Cherokee has a reputation in this race.
Well, it does. He won this race last year with 2nd gear only. Now, you see Kurt doing a little warm-up exercise, and it's actually to get himself relaxed.
Next up is Rob McCachran out of Las Vegas, Nevada, won the inaugural Trophy Truck Championship in '94.
I'll tell you, Rob McCackman is going to be very fast in this truck, and he knows this Baja Desert really, really well. He's done a lot of pre-running.
The other former champion in the field, the defending National Trophy Truck champion, Ivan Stewart, in the only Toyota.
And the other V6. Well, now, there's some really high-speed sections in this race, and Ivan's going to have to go flat out and keep up with the rest of the trucks. We'll have to just see how Ivan does. It's a very technical course for the most part, which should favor that Toyota.
Emerging talent, Jason Baldwin, the rising new star.
Jason is fast, and the truck is tough. I'll tell you, look for him to do real well if his fuel injection doesn't cause him any problems. They're introducing a new system on this truck, and they're still learning about it.
A lot of the Chevrolet hopes ride in the lap of this guy, the veteran Larry Ragland out of Phoenix.
They call him Lightning Larry because he is lightning fast. And I'll tell you what, you wouldn't want to have this guy in front of you. You wouldn't want to have him behind you just because he's so doggone fast. He's going to be a factor.
And the 10th starting spot belongs to another youngster, Carl Renazetter.
Carl is in the Baldwin family and will make this trophy truck really fly. Carl's hard at it most of the time. You'll see him do well if he can make that truck last. It's just come out of the mothballs. It's been sitting for most of the season. But I tell you what, they've done a lot of testing.
When you win the last race, you start last in the next race. Jimmy Smith in for Robbie Gordon.
You know, he's got a tough job ahead of him. Jimmy is a hot, fast driver. You know, it's not like he's any slouch, but this thing is a powerful, powerful truck, and Jimmy's going to have his hands full getting used to it in that first half hour.
So Gordon drove it all season. Now Smith is in it. Greg Till is the co-driver. What's the difference between the two?
Well, with Jimmy, I'll just try to keep him low down. With Robbie, when we see somebody in front of us, he's very aggressive and we go get him right now. Because I've never ridden with Jimmy in a race situation, we're just going to stay back and kind of let the race come to us.
When he says race situation, Dave, what he means is that you can test for miles and miles and miles. But when the green flag drops, something happens. Your personality changes. All the world is different. And Jimmy Smith has a lot of experience, but you just never know. That first half hour can be nuts, especially this first half hour because there's a lot of cliff roads they're running on. No time for a mistake from an agitated driver.
One of the most emotional moments I've seen in this sport was this guy, Jimmy Smith, winning the Baja 1000, dragging the remains of that truck in after dark and celebrating victory in the toughest race of them all. They're leaving Ensenada on the high-speed route, but things get a little tough, a little tricky not far out of town.
Well, you know what? It's a dangerous road, full of people and a lot of dust. And he's got those other 9 trophy trucks in front of him. For crying out loud, you know, he's got a heck of a job. So we just have to watch and see how he plays it. You know that Robbie's given him instructions to protect the point lead, don't not finish the truck, and if you can possibly, be first into the halfway point because there's extra points in the championship for that.
Let's move further up in the field. Third starter, Dave Simon. Want to go on board the Ford and see what Simon sees, and you give a listen. Listen to the engine, watch the suspension, watch the wheel. This is good stuff. Ooh, don't go off right there, Dave.
I love it.
All right, we're going to be seeing a lot more of these guys. Simon on the left, the driver. On the right is the co-driver. That's Don Tebby. Meanwhile, Ivan Stewart, who started 7th, has a little different challenge than some of the rest of these guys, and you alluded to it earlier. It's the issue of his truck versus the course.
In this particular case, the course favors the Toyota. It's very technical. About the first 190 miles are going to favor this truck because it's quick, it's squirty. He's going to get on the brakes, off the brakes very, very fast. It's a short wheelbase car. You know, I'd say you look for Ivan to do very, very well in this first section.
Now, we'll be back to see if that happens right after this. Smith is already on the move. He started last. He's still last on the road, but there is in this form of racing the issue of corrected time. We'll get into a more elaborate description of how that works later, but the bottom line is the guy who covers 511 miles the fastest is the winner, not necessarily the first guy to the finish line, and Smith is making tracks. He's already picked up a couple of positions. Meanwhile, Jeff Lewis continues to truck up at the front of the field. Jeff started first with a clear road in front of him. So what about strategy, Jeff? What's the potential problem out there?
Yeah, it's going to be awful tough. The windy sections of this course are treacherous and dangerous. I think people pressing their luck in the technical sections are going to be in for a world of hurt if they make a mistake.
This is probably a good opportunity, Bob, for us to elaborate a little bit on this term technical sections. As you can see, Lewis isn't going real fast right there. Simon is not going real fast right here. The reasons are pretty obvious, but elaborate on what technical means.
Well, it's a narrow road banked by trees and cliffs and rocks and people. A lot of turns, not much straight.
You didn't mention ruts. I noticed ruts.
Yeah, the ruts, you know, the ruts will tear a wheel right off. That's something else you have to watch out for. And this is the very early stage of the race where a mistake can only lose the race here. All you can do in this section is lose the race. You can't win it. So you have to let things stretch out, take care of your car, get into a rhythm, and get out to where the time and the endurance of this Baja 500 can show itself. There's a lot of race course ahead, and you got to be able to take it 1 foot at a time.
So this is Dave Simon going slow in order to go fast. But look here, trouble ahead. That is Javier Espinosa's truck. He would have been the next truck ahead on the road, but he is stopped dead in the water.
Well, he's got to be really disappointed. I bet he's in there on that radio right now because it's so early in the race. You can get it fixed. You can still go for a finish.
Remember, all of these teams have huge support crews strung along the desert in the designated pit areas and chasing them down the road. This moves everybody up a notch, including Renazetter, who started 10th.
And he is driving himself a very smart technical race. He's not pushing the truck. He's not sliding it or bouncing it. He's going for a finish, and he's going to have himself a great time today.
Obviously, the potential for attrition already demonstrated by Espinosa, the second truck on the road, stopping early on. Here you see some of the fans who gather. It's amazing the number of people who can come out of the pucker bushes and show up to line this racetrack.
In the middle of nowhere.
We follow Ragland, who started 4th. Talk about this racetrack, Larry.
One of the best courses we've probably had in a long time for all-around terrain and different types of things. Fast places, slow places, technical places. But it's a great race course. It'll be a great, great race.
A lot of people think that Ragland is just the guy to go out and win it, too. He's very fast here. Started 8th. He'll be biding his time in the Nelson & Nelson Chevrolet and probably using the fast sections further down the course to try to make up some of that time and pick up positions, work his way toward the front.
It's interesting you say the fast sections down the course. This particular race truck built by Nelson & Nelson is a wonderful blend of both the technical and the quickness needed there and the high-speed rapid racing for unbelievable horsepower pull away from a helicopter kind of power.
Ragland hoping to win it from 8th. Meanwhile, Ivan Stewart, the living legend of off-road racing, the defending series champion, and remarkable in this event in that he's looking for his 8th win here. Coincidentally, they always run this baby on his birthday.
We have probably more testing than anybody out here, and like I say, I've got a tremendous amount of confidence in Baja. I love this race. It's right on my birthday. I'm going to take this race as a birthday present, and you know, I feel good. I feel real confident that we can come out of this race real well.
Ivan on a roll. We mentioned 8 victories here. He's won this thing 5 of the last 6 times. I think he likes that birthday cake they fix him in Ensenada.
Well, this is a team that intimidates for their effectiveness, for their size. They are absolutely awesome. Ivan's not the champion by accident. There's no question about it. He's the champion himself. And the PPI team does a wonderful job of keeping that truck rolling forward.
He's down into some of the wide open spaces. Meanwhile, McCachran further down the road, starting 6th, is working his way up into the mountains. They're running some new terrain this year that these guys haven't seen before.
Well, Rob told us earlier, you know, they're going north, and this has never been done in all the years of the Baja 500, so it's new areas with new roads and well, a lot of new booby traps probably out there. They're running up, and they're going to go up to the Pacific Ocean.
You know, off the start line here, we head north instead of south. It's got a lot of neat stuff, really tight, some good uphills, some downhills, some really dark areas. It's going to be really good. It's going to be the person who has the most patience is going to win this race.
A lot of talk pre-race about patience, about the need to take your time.
Yeah, well, I don't see a lot of patience coming out of Rob McCachran. He wants to be at the front. Dust is an aphrodisiac, and that's why he's jumping into it.
McCachran starting 6th, and just ahead of him, the man he's trying to run down on the road, Kurt Leduc, won this race last year under really rather remarkable circumstances, having lost most of the transmission, but managed to have fewer problems than everybody else, and that's the bottom line. He limped it home with the victory. Not a lot of position swapping going on yet, but you can bet there will be a lot before we are finished. Leduc still sitting in 5th spot. as they run the early stretch, the northern stretch from Ensenada in this, the 25th running of the Baja 500. We're back in Baja, the early going in the Tecate Baja 500, which started in Ensenada, Mexico. Again, the big crowds that gather along the roadside, the dust that is typical as we watch the third starter in the race, Dave Simon. Dust is typical, but not all-encompassing. Right along with Simon, and note the mud that he and co-driver Don Tebby have to deal with here.
And the speed. Now we're moving. Now we're moving.
Man.
Oh. Not bad, not bad.
Serious slop there.
Yeah, it drags horsepower down, but you know what? They have plenty of it, so I don't think there's a problem.
Now, why tiptoe through this?
Well, because you could drown the motor, you could do anything else. Besides, you want to get just the right amount of spray to cool yourself off.
And to get the lens all dirty. Yeah, thank you, Don. That's Don Tebby, the co-driver, remembering you folks at home. Cleaning off the lens so you get a nice, clear view of Mr. Simon. Well, come on, Don, that's enough. See Mr. Simon at work here. Back into the dust.
They're working on Jeff Lewis's dust, and I tell you, they're going to hold back on this dust, I think, until they get to the highway section coming up. You just don't do it to pass too fast up in this stuff.
Here you get some sense of relationship as we watch Ed Herbst, who started fourth, but let's talk about the issue of corrected time. The trucks left Ensenada a minute apart. That means the truck behind Herbst, Kurt Leduc, would have been a full 60 seconds behind him. Well, here comes Leduc, and the interval is less than a minute. Corrected time means the actual elapsed time that it's taken you from the time you started to get to the point where you are on the course. If you started a minute behind the truck in front of you and you're now, say, 30 seconds behind him, on corrected time, you're actually in front of him. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense to me, but and lucky Leduc, I mean, he gets to hang in the dust of the truck he's ahead of. Think of that one through.
I'm trying to, but it's confusing me a great deal. They're up in a high ridge section here, and we'll get an opportunity to get some perspective on this, because as we follow Leduc, the guy who won this thing a year ago with the remains of his transmission, the trucks behind him are also taking the opportunity to make time. This is a driver's section.
It is, because there's great visibility. You can see the trucks ahead and behind in two glimpses. You've also got actually pretty good surface, wide road. You can road race through here. That's what we call it a driver's section. Here you can hang the car out a little bit. Now, Herbst is holding up part of the crowd because he's still getting used to driving this truck at speed. Leduc is waiting in his dust, waiting for him to make a mistake. We're still holding back, being very conservative at this point in this race because it's early.
Leduc won this thing last year, as we've mentioned, with a broken transmission. He knows the value of saving your equipment and getting it to the finish line. But he has closed up on Herbst, and by our calculation should be in third place in the race on corrected time. Herbst would be fourth, actually behind Leduc in the running order, and behind them come McCachran and Stewart, and that'll be the next great race that we may even get a look at here, because they should be, what, just a minute or so behind Leduc here.
That seems to be about right. The next car should be McCachran a minute back, and you get an idea what these guys say. Well, he's less than a minute. Look at this, Dave. He's actually less than a minute behind Leduc and making time on him. So, you know, the trouble with trying to figure out who's ahead, who's behind in this section of the race course is it's totally fluid. It just moves forward and back. Guy could go into therapy. Look, up in the left corner, there's Ivan. You know, you just couldn't figure it. That's why they have checkpoints. So
exactly. It all sorts itself out at the checkpoint where they record the time they came through. Again, Stewart started 7th, but should be inside the top 5 now. We've had the retirement, of course, of Espinosa. And here's what it looks like from Ivan's viewpoint as he fights the dust of McCachran.
Visibility is so tough.
And that's part of the reason these guys don't all rush right up and get in line behind Herbst. If they all get in each other's dust, then you can't see. You're running this ridge top where there's only one line.
But it's a fast line, and so if you're in the dust, you can tag a tire in a rut or a rock, something like that, and tear the corner off the truck.
Now, at the end of this ridge road, there is pavement, and the race leader, Dave Simon, is already out on this 12-mile stretch where the speed limit, this is open to the public, the speed limit is a 45-mile average for the section, 55 top speed, and look at this. He's going around Jeff Lewis. That red truck is Lewis's pace truck. What happened here is Simon stopped and got a splash of gas. Now the gamble he's taking is that he won't be speeding, that he won't be too fast for the average by the time he gets to the other end. Meanwhile, what is this, a river in Baja?
Yeah, there's lots of them, and this one looks like it's momentarily stopped. Rob McEachran with Ivan coming up right behind him. I tell you, McEachran is flipping switches and throwing things. He got out. He got it fired.
Oh, and just barely got out in front of Ivan.
Talk about a heartbeat. Now, I tell you, there's a pulse going fast in that Ford right now.
Well, look at how McEachran pulls away once he gets the thing fired up again. But the point is, Stewart has caught him and will be in front of McEachran in the running order, which shows Simon the leader as we take a break. We're back in Baja, and the boys doing the Baja Boogie most effectively today are these guys, the Simon brothers, with Dave Simon currently at the wheel and Paul waiting for the driver change. Lead the race. Javier Espinosa stopped along the road, was their first victim. Jeff Lewis passed just before the commercial break on the pavement, has fallen by the wayside, and now the Simons are all alone out front.
Clear air, clear speed, clear good time for these guys. Now this is where they need to be and where they want to be. This is one happy race truck right now because the guys are ahead and they've got nothing in front of them but Baja Desert and great truck under them.
Listen to the engine. A lot of throttle control in this game.
Yeah, now I don't know if you saw that sign that Don Tebby held up. That was to tell the chase crews, yeah, we see you, we're okay. Oh, you don't want to make a mistake in here, Despain. You just don't want to hit one of those trees.
A lot of shadows, too, that make the viewing a little deceptive at this kind of speed. Now, from the Simons, let's pick up Jason Baldwin. We hear he's just had an adventure back there where McEachran got stalled out in that swamp. Baldwin went through there and did a couple of 360s, killed the engine, but has
even in the first 100 miles, we'll be making some good time. But once we get down to that dry lake, heading south on the course over the Mexicali area, we'll really be making some time.
All right, Jason Baldwin started 8th, but this has become a remarkably close battle. It is pit stop time. The Simons are already through the pits, but here comes Rob McEachran, who started 6th. In for his service. And the remarkable thing about this is that all the guys behind him are bunched up in what is effectively a battle for second place. Here comes LeDuc on the fly. He's not going to stop.
Not a bit. And, you know, everybody's not pitting right here. So, that, you know, maybe, for example, Baldwin still has a pit stop to make yet. We don't know.
We saw Ivan Stewart, the 8-time champion of the race. As McEachran pulls out, Stewart is ready. 20 to 40 second pit stops to put anywhere from 40 to 80 gallons of fuel in the truck and 4 tires. Fuel strategies vary among the teams. Here's the guy who is on the move, in my opinion. This is Larry Ragland. Remember, Ragland started 9th. Oh, look at Baldwin go flying by. These guys are all bunched up, but on corrected time, this may be the guy to watch right here.
You know, and it's just so fluid, you can't really tell. Again, we're back to why they have checkpoints, but I'll guarantee you one thing. Every one of these guys wants to be first on the road. Holy mackerel, what's this?
What's wrong with this picture? Ford Flambe. Dave Simon has a fire in the back of the lead truck, and you have to wonder if he knows it's there.
Dave, I don't think they do, because that's so low and behind the truck. I don't think they know they're on fire. Something's bad.
The truck burning in the back end. Now, our helicopter crew know it, and they're trying to get word to the drivers that they've got an onboard fire. No way to speculate at this point what might have triggered this, but that's going to do a lot of damage if they don't get stopped and get it out.
Well, it looks more like Apollo 13 right now. That's right over where the fuel cell is. I mean, that truck, that's in serious danger here. And realize this isn't in a stadium. This isn't in a stadium where you can have help immediately. They're out alone, away from everybody.
They are fire extinguisher equipped, however, right?
Yeah, but I look at the fire. I hope they got a big enough extinguisher. And if they even know, if they even find out, this is serious.
Well, they're certainly gathering the attention of the TV helicopters, 2 of them with a near miss now. Pat Wallace, our cameraman in that other chopper, putting down his camera and frantically trying to signal the Simons, and I think that Tebby has finally gotten the news. Yeah, he's looking out and says, woo-hoo,
park this puppy, park it.
We probably ought to consider stopping. He's out with fire extinguisher in hand. Let's see if he can get this put out quickly before there's any further damage. Now, when you look here, you can see they're not just burning, but they're leaving a trail of fire behind them. Does that tell you anything about what might be wrong?
Well, it's a fluid of some sort. I reckon if it was fuel that would stick, it could be a rear end. Oh, I don't know. Look at that. You know, the whole thing's backed by the fuel cell. It could be rear end grease.
Well, they've got it stopped for the moment. Tebby waving to thank the crew. Thank you guys for letting us know. I guess the speculation now would have to be about how much damage that they might have occurred here beyond the cosmetics.
We're going to have to check it out and find out what's going on here, because that's an unnatural act for a race truck.
Depending on how long those guys are stopped, that's going to shuffle the running order behind them. Here is Kurt Leduc, 6th at the last checkpoint, but look behind him. Rob McCackern closing in. McCackern started a full minute behind Leduc, but has certainly closed that interval up substantially. McCackern surviving his near miss when he got stuck in that wash. And look how far he's pulled away from Ivan Stewart. The next guy you'll see, again, 3, 4, 5 hours into the race. Most races don't last this long. These guys are bunched up within a matter of a mile. 3 of them battling for position here. And of that bunch, Ivan's having the best run because he started further behind than the rest.
Yeah, you'd have to think he's probably in 3rd place, just like at checkpoint time said. But what's very key here is the fact that they are so close together this far into the race, and that is the excitement. You know, all these trucks are so different one from the other. Each comes from a design of the maker. They aren't all production cars. So everybody's got their philosophy on how to build a fast truck for the desert. And look at it. We have equality no matter which way they go. These things are fast, hard running race machines.
This guy has always been among the kings of the desert, and now as they come to the checkpoint, more problems for the Simon & Simon truck. There's Tebby with his fire extinguisher in hand.
And the truck's on fire again.
Yeah, the fire has recurred in the back of the Rough Riders machine here, and so Tebby's going to have to try to put it out, and Simon's going to have to get out of the way because there's traffic coming. This is going to lose them all of their track position.
Which is also race position. This is the 1st place truck, but not now.
Here they come. Leduc is 2nd to arrive upon the scene, but this is going to be a parade because they've all bunched up behind them, and we're going to see them go through here one after another. McCackern should be next. There he is. Then we're going to see Ivan. What do we know about what's happened with the Simon truck?
Well, we found out that they hit something and damaged the rear hub. So what caused the fire was rear end grease leaking or spraying out onto a red-hot brake rotor, causing the fire. They didn't see it. So the fire caught on to some, as we're going to see here, we're going to see some things under there, I'm sure. That's why it's smoking so bad. It caught on to all sorts of things, including the fuel cell, which is the low backside of that truck.
So that stuff's all kind of stored there in the back, and it's all been singed now. How much of that might be critical remains to be seen. You saw Ragland go through a moment ago. He's going to be shown as the leader of the race at this point, and here is Baldwin, who survived his loop-de-loop through the swamp and has moved into 3rd spot. Meanwhile,
Dave
Simon team assesses the difficulty.
Look at Dave. I mean, have you seen the dejected guy before? There you are. He went from 1st place to 6th place in the Terminal 1 short little flame.
Bad enough to go toast, but to do it while you're leading the race, the Baja 500 is a huge frustration. Tebby says, thanks, guys. Look at the soot on his hands. They've got the thing running. They're going to go chasing the leaders as we take another break with Ragland showing the way in Baja. We're in Baja. Depending on how you count them, this is the 25th running of the legendary 500. And this is a fascinating section of racetrack.
La Rumorosa grade. You are dropping 4,500 feet in a road. This road is 10 miles in length. It takes you 10 miles of this driving, but you only advance yourself maybe a half a mile forward. It's very steep, very dangerous drop-offs here, and in my opinion, no place to haul butt racing.
This is a section where you want to take care of business, take care of the truck. Jason Baldwin running 3rd. Now remember, it was a little exuberance with the throttle that got him in trouble back there in the river crossing, but he's being a whole lot more careful right here.
He's being careful, but he's also being quick. He pulled some really good time coming down this mountain. Dave, I want you to notice that there's actually a lack of dust coming off those tires, and that's because on this mountain, it is such a heavy content of rock that there's very little dust or sand on these tight turns.
One thing we're going to notice here is there's Ragland ahead of Baldwin, and he wasn't able to make the corner. That's how tight this section is. That's going to cost him some time.
Well, it costs him all time. You know, this whole mountain is full of those switchbacks where it's come to the turn, back and fill, and get on. In fact, there's more turns like that than the ones that you can make, and these guys are doing their level best to make sure that they don't blow it, because the slide down the mountain wouldn't stop for 4,000 feet.
A huge contrast to the flat-out running across the dry lakes that wait further down the course. For the moment, Ragland is your leader on corrected time. He is 4th on the road. We've had a change in the order, and it happened in circumstances very much like you just saw for Ragland. Kirk Leduc currently 5th. But remember the last time we saw him just before the commercial? He was in front of everybody else. Now he's chasing dust. What happened, Bob?
Well, that's exactly right. He came into a turn, got a little bit sideways and got himself a little bit stuck. Ivan Stewart came in and bumped him on the inside. It was like a Mickey Thompson Stadium race truck. Then came McCachran. They all stopped. They were all tangled together. Ivan actually muscled through, came out first. Then McCachran squirted through, and then Leduc went from 1st to 3rd in the push of a fender.
Now, you've had a look at all 3 of them there in the aftermath of that incident. You were watching Ivan Stewart. This is McCachran, who started 6th, is currently 4th in the running order, and you have the sense that there's a charge to come from this guy. The way he pulled away from Ivan Stewart after that incident in the river crossing was pretty impressive. He's got an awful lot of truck to work with there. Leduc, the big loser in all that. Wait a minute. Whoa. What is this?
Well, McCachran is on a charge, and he's looking to make a little bit of time. See, he's making that right turn. He just slid off the side of the hill instead of making that loop. That'll save him another 10 seconds. That's like passing and getting clear air.
And that's legal?
That's legal.
Okay, fair enough. Why not just go from the top and head straight down? Well, it's a little too steep to do that all the way to the bottom.
Kind of got to pick your spots. Now, Leduc didn't see the spot, so he's going to drive around through it. Now,
yeah, that was interesting too, wasn't it?
Now, here's Ivan. See, he's at the bottom of this thing, getting back on the fast road. And he's first on the road, so you can bet that he's going to have his leg in that thing, trying to make some time on the 2 guys behind him that are also fast.
So you've got an interesting situation here with Stewart battling McCachran. Remember, they're the 2 guys that are tied for 2nd in the points behind Robbie Gordon, who's not here today, and whose truck has had trouble. As we watch McCachran, Jimmy Smith has damaged the suspension on the truck, actually hit something alongside the road, and that slowed him down dramatically. So we watch now as Jason Baldwin works his way through another of these muddy sections. Looks like he's going slow. Looks like he's taking his time. Watch for the rooster tails that give you an indication of how hard he's really on the gas. And the question comes to mind, okay, what happens if you get stuck out here? How does your crew find you? Coincidentally, Bob Bauer just happens to have the answer.
Knowing the exact position of your race truck in the Baja 500 at any point during the race is critical to the success of the race, but as well to the safety. In years past, when a race truck had a problem, the team used to have to go out and hunt around the desert, hoping they could find them. Now, there's a secret weapon the teams have employed called Global Positioning System. Ralph, what has Global Positioning System done for the face of Baja racing?
With a global positioning receiver in your race vehicle, you know where you are 24 hours a day. With that global positioning system, you have an exact latitude and longitude on a display in your cockpit. If you have an emergency or breakdown, you can radio your crew and get help. Also, with built-in digitized mapping, the GPS literally puts you on the map. If you have an emergency, it can save you precious time and can be vital to your rescue.
So there you go, state-of-the-art satellite navigation. But you know what's wrong with the truck of the leader, Larry Ragland? His water bottle's broken. Scotty, beam me down a drink. We'll be back to see how Ragland fares in the face of dehydration as he continues his chase across the Baja Desert, trying to win the famed 500. Stay with us. Where the 500 has turned into a battle royal between this guy, Rob McCachran, the new leader, and his hot pursuer, Larry Ragland. And the question is, what happened to Ivan Stewart? And Bob Bauer, the answer is?
On that high-speed, hot section, he suffered a broken valve, sucked the motor. He's broke. He's out of the race. Not going to finish.
Happy birthday, Ivan. Celebrating his 51st here this week in Baja. That's a tradition. He always celebrates his birthday for the big race. He's won it 8 times. He will not win it today. Stewart out with a blown engine. And Ragland is left to pursue the leader, McCachran. And they are very, very close. And now into a section where we're going to start to see some of that speed we talked about at the top of the show.
Speed, high R's, and really rugged on the brakes. I mean, it seems crazy that all that horsepower would mean more brakes, but that's exactly what they have to control the weight and move it around. Ragland is also doing something here that I commend him for. You know, he has been without a drinker now since 1 or 2 this afternoon, and it's now about 3 in the afternoon, going through hot temperatures, 110 degrees, working hard. His physical conditioning is what's keeping him going.
The malfunction in the driver watering system, if you will, is the problem for Ragland, and you got to wonder about the long-term effects of dehydration as McCachran goes flying by, and Larry continues his hot pursuit. Again, he's over 50 years of age and seems to be handling this difficulty pretty well, but you got to wonder over time. Now, will he get a chance to tank up here when they stop to service the truck?
Well, I'm sure he will while he's in the truck, but you know, it is physical, but it's also mental, which is what I believe at times really favors those guys that have been around for a moment or so. Ragland's been in this desert. He's won races. He knows what it takes, and he's got tremendous self-control, and he's very competitive. You know, he's still within a minute of Rob McCachran after all these miles.
I don't see anybody getting him any water, but look at the oil they're dumping into that thing. Is that a potential problem?
Well, apparently there's something wrong with the truck's drinker, too, so I don't know. We didn't hear about that.
McCachran continues to show the way. Ragland in hot pursuit. And this one has suddenly boiled down to pretty much a two-man battle. We've also lost Lewis along the way as Ragland finishes his pit stop and gets back underway.
Well, Jeff Lewis was pretty perceptive in his talking about it, people taking chances, because he ended up being a victim of his own words. He ended up parking it on the edge of a cliff, nearly lost the whole truck.
Let's give a listen to Rob McCachran's radio as he continues to lead.
Okay, with 5:35 physical time for Ragland, that means that we are 2 minutes and 35 seconds up corrected time for truck 2-1 to Larry Ragland. Copy that, Rob? Yeah, I copy that. Is he picking up on me from the highway? No, you haven't changed. You're just exactly where you were. 10-4. And if the helicopters bother you, just tell me. I can move them out of the way. Mike, that's the camera. Yeah, I realize that, but does that get a little irritating after a while? Hey, we need it. Yeah, I know.
Mike doesn't seem very excited about it, but at least McCachran is happy to have us around, taking these pictures of him as he tries to maintain his lead and build his advantage over Ragland. He seemed concerned that Ragland was catching him there.
Well, Ragland is really on the pipe, and they've been so close all afternoon. You know, it just, like I said earlier, it's just absolutely terrible to have the pressure of a good first-line race driver right on your butt, chewing away at your time. You can't make a mistake. And let's not forget, oh, brother, this is a backmarker motorcycle from the race earlier. Don't forget, Dave.
That's the right idea. You see a 4,000, 6,000 pound truck coming 100 miles an hour, get out of the way. That's
Bail,
what I
buddy.
do. We got to get in a quick break here with McCachran leading Ragland. We'll be right back for a fuel injector problem? This guy might be considered the third player. Jason Baldwin's having trouble with his truck.
Used to be you could fix a truck's carburetor with a hammer. Now it takes a laptop for the fuel injection.
And that problem persisting as he falls further behind this guy, the leader, Rob McCachran. I'll tell you what, after nearly 500 miles of racing, to have your pursuer less than 5 minutes behind makes for pretty close racing. McCachran cannot afford to have anything go wrong here.
Not a thing, because this man is on a mission. Larry Ragland is pursuing him hard at the finish, but you know the physical side of it is he's got to be fatigued by now due to lack of water and dehydration. I don't know how he's going to pull it off.
He's hanging in there pretty tough as Ragland in the Chevy versus McCachran in the Ford continues one of the great battles in the history of American motorsports. Those guys have been racing each other on racetracks of every imaginable kind. I don't know that you can find a wilder racetrack than this. Hello, Kiko Lencioni. Kiko's got a wheat field out here, 40,000 bucks worth of wheat. He said, you want to run the race through at harvest time? Come on down. And so that's the kind of hospitality among the Mexican natives here that really makes this race possible.
It wouldn't happen without him, and I just got to thank him as a racer. Thank you, Kiko.
All right, headed for home. Larry Ragland trying to hang on. I would suspect at this point, given the difficulties he's battled all day, he knows he's second unless something happens to McCachran.
He's not going to give up, though, you know, because McCachran could have a flat tire. He's within 4 minutes. Ragland is within 4 minutes of a win if McCachran has a flat, and that could be the winning deal.
McCachran's truck, of course, is a single-seater, so if he does have a flat, he's got to change the tire himself. The other issue is fuel. McCachran used a whole different strategy than Ragland.
Well, he did it on 2 fuel stops, and you know, you're coming to the end, and it would be the first race this year that had a fuel or lack of fuel change the outcome of the race at the last 20 miles or so, which is where we are here.
Well, as we watch McCachran nurse the fuel and battle with Ragland, we remember that Jim Venable owns this truck. Jim Venable converts airplanes to firefighters. You can't help but wonder if the Simons, who led this thing for a long time today, couldn't have used his services before their truck burned down. Now, they're gone, and Venable's machine with McCachran at the wheel is headed for home.
Yeah, I made it. Make it from here coasting.
That tells me that he's no longer worried about the fuel. The checkered flag awaits. Rob McCachran, looking for his first win of the year, has it in the Baja 500. Let the celebration begin, and for Larry Ragland, I'll tell you what, given what he's been through today, second place is not bad.
No, here he is at the last checkpoint, about to pop up on the highway in the, you call that the last 15 miles. And by now he knows that he's going to be second. He knows he's got a clean run, and there's nobody behind him to pressure, so he can be taking care of the truck all the way to the finish line.
Chevy engineers got to be happy, too. They did some different things with this truck, and they paid off.
Well, they invented themselves a brand new high-performance U-joint for the V-drives, which seems to have solved the mechanical problems this truck suffered.
McCachran has won it. We'll hear from him in a moment. Our coverage of the Baja, remarkable 9.5 hours, not the anticipated 10 to 12 to run the Baja 500. And while the stragglers are making their way to the finish line, Rob McCachran is cooling off, chilling out, and preparing to talk to the reporters. He has won it by a margin of less than 5 minutes. Let's go to Bob Bauer.
Rob McCachran, you really smoked at that one. This is the first finish for this truck in really good shape. How'd it go as you planned?
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, went off the start line just trying to be real conservative with the Ford. Went out there, and it was real dusty the first half of the race, and finally things started happening, and Ivan was leading. He was in front of me first on the road, and he went out with a little bit of a motor problem and pulled over. From there on in, I just led the whole way in. We didn't have any flats. I like to thank BF Goodrich Tires because of that.
Where were you fastest, and where did you know you really had it bagged?
I'll tell you, you know, on the roads, this Ford that Venable Racing built, Dave Clark built it. It's one heck of a truck, you know. It had no problems today at all.
So McCachran has won it. Ragland is headed for second place, but Jason Baldwin will not finish. Those fuel injector problems we referred to have compounded. 10 miles from the finish line, he's reportedly blown the engine. His teammate Renazetter also out. He crashed into one of Ivan Stewart's support vehicles, which was on the racetrack. That is illegal. After blowing the engine, Ivan has been penalized another position for that difficulty. But for Larry Ragland, well, it was a case of overcoming difficulty. Surviving dehydration, he rolls home a second-place finisher. Let's go to Bob with Lightning Larry.
Where was it roughest on you?
Actually, truthfully, my little water hose got disconnected to my drinker, and I never got any water. So I actually wore out. My truck didn't wear out. It was great. Chile truck was on fine, but I just couldn't get water. And so I got real tired. I just couldn't run with him at the end.
Wow, now check this out. Here comes Kurt LeDuc. He's going to finish third, but he rolled that truck out at Mike's Sky Ranch and beat it to pieces and kind of drags the remains into town to claim a third-place finish. Good run, too, for the Herbst boys. They will finish fourth here this afternoon, persevering after the early difficulties that you saw at the top of the hour. So the Herbst team is fourth. Let's hear from Kurt LeDuc on the occasion of his third-place finish. Bob Bauer.
Wow, Kurt, the truck doesn't look like it did this morning when it left.
No, that thing about Baja wanted it back. It took a few pieces off of us. The Donovan team did great. I just got a little anxious going up to Mike's, and we rolled it over, and Clive got the guys on the horn and came up and put a little more Valvoline in it because we left a little up there. They wanted that oil back too, you know. We just ran hard. You know, we led early on, and it was just unbelievable pace. Unbelievable. The Goodyear tires were great. We had no flats. We were hooked up. We changed them once today. And the race just went away from us. Those guys were absolutely on a mission. They knocked down more trees and rocks in front of me. It was unbelievable.
Now, for those on a mission, here is the payoff. McCachran scores his first win of the year. Ragland gets his first finish of the year. LeDuc comes home third. Herbst, Simon, and Simon after the Flames. And Espinosa round out the top half dozen. As you can see, attrition was a very big deal. Smith had lots of trouble, finished way downfield, as did Lewis. Baldwin, Runnezetter, and Stewart, the non-finishers. The point lead for Robbie Gordon cut in half. McCachran makes the big move. Simon and Simon move to third in the points. Now, if you're an internet type, you can follow this.